hello, Jenna.
Well, hello, Shelby.
Welcome to Miss Willa's Book Club. Could you imagine? Is that how we're starting this episode today?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What episode is it that I did that? Oh, yeah.
I don't remember, but it's so funny. Or the, what was the Men in Black one? Bad boys, bad boys.
Oh, that's what Men in Black was, Bad Boys. That was recently. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Well, hi, Jenna.
Well, hi, Shelby.
And hi, book friends. Welcome back to Miss Willa's Book Club.
Welcome to the chaos. We got dogs. We got drinks. We got smutty books, man. We're ready to go.
Oh, my God. So, Jenna, what are we reading this week?
We are reading The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. This is the third book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, or the first book in the second duology.
Which is the Shadowborn Duet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is, if you read, oh my goodness, dogs.
I love it. Okay, so the dogs were being super quiet before we started recording. And then as soon as we started recording, they were like, hey, guys, we want to be involved. So if you hear that, that thumping in the background is our dogs playing. So if you hear that, just know that they're having a really good time. But so as you were saying, yes, this is in the Crowns of Nyaxia series.
Yes, which is the one that starts with the serpent and the wings of night.
Yes.
By Carissa Broadbent.
Right. You're just going to hear us giggling at our dogs, and it's fine. It is what it is.
Anyway, so vampires.
Yes.
This is for the tryhards that wanted an adult version. This is for you.
We got it. We got that adult version. As we were saying before we so rudely got interrupted by our dogs that just love each other so much.
So they love each other almost as much as we love each other. Cheers.
Oh my God, cheers. Cute. Oh yeah, Jenna, before we get into the book, what are we drinking?
We are drinking in holiday cups. They've got little sparkly Christmas trees and snowmen on them.
So
cute.
No,
it's not snowmen. Sorry, reindeer. And it has vodka and raspberry lemonade and Diet 7-Up.
Yum.
Yep.
It's so good. It's got that bubbly. It's like kind of refreshing, but it's
our return to the drink of the episodes that we used to do. We realized we haven't done that in a while, so this is our drink of the episode.
Yes. So here we go. It is literally not inspired by anything, but like what
watered down blood.
We are doing The Songbird and Heart of Stone, which is the third book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So the way she has it is it's going to be a duology, followed by a duology, followed by another duology. And so the first duology followed Rain and Aurea. This duology is following Misha and Asar. And this is the Shadowborn Duet. We don't know what the third duet is going to be.
We don't, but I think the only thing we can guess is that in this universe, there are 3 houses of vampires.
Yes.
So there's the House of Night, which was Aurea and Rain.
Yep.
And there's the House of Shadow, which would be this duology. And then there's the House of Blood. So I think we can assume that the third duology is going to be from one of the vampires in the House of Blood. Yeah. But we don't really know very many, if any, vampires in the House of Blood yet. So my guess is that we'll be introduced to that character in the 4th book.
I love it. Well, and then, so these books are like in the same world, but very, very different than the first two. Like basically completely separate stories.
It feels more like a spin-off series than it does like a continuation of the series.
That's a very good way to put it, actually.
Because it's different than, I know I've talked about it before, but Danielle Jensen's series that starts with the Bridge Kingdom. And I don't remember what the name of the series is, but it starts with the Bridge Kingdom. Yeah. And she also does duology.
Oh, cool.
But the difference is it's like the same story and they're like sort of happening at the same time, but just in different areas of the world. So the stories feel like they overlap a little bit more. Like what's happening in the other parts of the world matters. But in this one, it spins off from the end of the Ashes in the Starcrest King.
Yes.
And you kind of just like don't touch on really anything that happened in that book again.
Which
so
I
it
think
feels very separate.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue for where we're at in the beginning of this book.
Yeah.
So at the end of the Ashes in the Starcrest King.
Which, spoiler warning, if you haven't read the first duology, meaning the Crowns of Nyaxia, yes, we are going to have spoilers for The Serpent in the Wings of Night and the Ashes in the Starcrest King starting now. So this is your opportunity to head off if you have not read both of those books, because it will include spoilers for both of those books.
Yes. Because this is where we're ending off on the
Correct.
Ashes and the Starcursed King.
Correct.
So Misha had killed her maker.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, that was such a satisfying
Girl
scene, by the way.
power.
Oh, I loved it so much. And now she's kind of run off. She just kind of like disappeared at the end of the last book.
Yeah, well, at the end of the last book, she was having a lot of internal struggles about who she was, and Aurea and Rain were like so happy and in love that she was having a really hard time just being around that. She's like, I need to leave here, go find myself, figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life. And so now she's taken off into the rest of the world, has ended up probably where she didn't mean to. And that's where this book now picks up. And
yes.
I do think the beginning of this book did a really good job at kind of reminding you who she was, because you didn't know a lot about her backstory in the first two books.
Absolutely.
So it kind of sets the tone a little bit better here.
One of the things that I think is really cool, though, from the last duology is that Misha was a character that we already wanted to know more about. Like, Carissa Broadbent did such a good job of making Misha an important character and someone that we like fell in love with. We wanted to know her story. And so to have this be the second duology, I feel like it's just like so special.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was exactly the right type of character to spin off a series into.
Yeah. Without spoiling this book specifically, then, what did you rate it?
I started by thinking that I rated it a 5, but I did come back down and decide on 4.5. So obviously still very strong. But as I thought on it a little bit more, there was a little bit of a period in the middle of the book where I think it got a little slow. Like, it was a little slow to get into, but I actually didn't think bad. I didn't mind the beginning of it, but it did get felt a little dragged on towards the middle of it before some started happening.
Right.
So that's why I was like, I probably should knock that down. That probably wasn't a 5, it's 4.5 for me. What about you?
I honestly think that I'm in the same boat.
Yeah?
So I think there were portions in the middle and in the beginning where I was just having kind of a hard time with it. But we might talk about it in a TikTok that we might do tonight. So don't judge me.
We listen and we don't judge.
You're totally going to judge me, though. So anytime I read a book and the ending is a complete 5 stars for me, I immediately go to Goodreads and I give it 5 stars.
I totally get that. Yeah. I think if the last 50 pages really makes it and the beginning of the book was at least a 3 or 3.5, I end up having, which is why I originally gave it 5 stars too.
Right.
And the only reason I had to reflect on that is because when I went to go do a November reading wrap up, and I thought of the other book that I gave 5 stars, and I was like,
like that one's
you're right.
better.
Like that really wasn't, they weren't quite on the same level. I'm like, it probably was 4.5. It's just, I love Carissa Broadbent's style of writing so much.
I do too.
And I'm really excited for you to read the War of Lost
Hearts series.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think you'll feel the same way. Like, she
Yeah.
just makes you care so deeply for these characters, and they have such distinct internal struggles that you just, I don't know.
It like really brings you that emotion for them. And you know, Shelby loves that.
I know you love the character development. So that's how I felt about this one.
And to make you feel like that too, that's huge. That's huge.
It is.
Well, do we want to start to get into some spoilers?
Yeah. So to be clear, this is now, from this moment on, spoilers also for the Songbird and the Heart of Stone. So this is the 3rd book. Moving on for the rest of that. So this will have spoilers for the rest of the book from here on out.
Okay, so
ready, go.
Ready, go. Here we go. Okay, so I really liked during the first duology how they had the flashbacks.
So like Aurea's childhood.
Yes. But I don't feel like they were as important as they were here. Like, hearing the flashbacks and learning about Mish before she was a vampire made me just like fall in love with her so much.
Well, it's like so interesting that it's like the opposite of a traditional story with the chosen one, and that this is instead is like what happens when you are the chosen one and you fall from that glory. And how do you respond as a person, and like with your God, how does that relationship change? And so I think that her flashbacks kind of like made you start to realize all of the grooming that was happening from her childhood into being in that position.
Yes.
And I don't know, there's just not that many. I feel like where this story took off for her, feels like the end of a lot of other stories, right? It's like when you're at the peak and you are the chosen one, and now all of a sudden this is like a totally different perspective of like this god is now really unhappy with you because you're a vampire and you're not supposed to be, and now you're in Nyaxia's territory. And so I totally agree. I think the flashbacks played a completely different role now because they make you realize a different piece of Misha.
I 100% agree with you. And I think it's really cool that it starts off like that with the prologue. The prologue, I feel like, had me encaptured right away. And at the end of that, they even said, like, this is not a story about, like, rising to grace. This is a story about the chosen one falling. And that, to me, like, I never thought of Misha as a fallen chosen one because she just seemed so sweet.
Well, and I don't think that it sunk in enough during the Ashes and the Star-Crossed King that as Misha was trying to teach Araya how to use magic, because they were like, oh, you're going to be the best at this. And we kind of know that Misha has a strained relationship with her god and her magic in general, and that it doesn't necessarily perform how they expect. But I don't think it sunk in for me enough what Misha's internal struggles were with that, and how it made her no longer feel like she was a valued being. So I don't know. It was really crazy because the first 50 pages of this book painted Misha in such a different light than I had seen her before.
Absolutely. It absolutely did. And I felt so enthralled from the first freaking page where I was like, okay, Misha she has disappeared from the last book, right? And we're like, where the heck did she go? Like, why did she leave? Like, things were just getting good for them. And we find out why she left. And that she left because she was seeing Araya and Rain in love. And she's like, I'm basically your third wheel. I'm just watching your life happen. Like, what's up with my life? She's killed her maker. And so now she's imprisoned by the family of her maker because the person who turned her was like a prince.
The prince of the shadow.
A House of Shadow.
House of Shadow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And so basically their king, who is like literally on his deathbed. Like he is so old and decrepit and like forgets things, and he doesn't even know why he's there and like answering these summons. And so you have this like
he's so out of it.
He's so out of it. And so you have this scene in the very beginning where you find out that like the king is like so out of it, and he's like literally about to die. The sister, who is like, cut off her head, let's kill her. And here comes Asar. And he's like, hey, wait, I have use of her.
He's like, no, I need this bitch.
I need this bitch. I even think he says like, I need her.
Yeah.
I need her.
I know. And then it's so funny because just, classic female character being like, no, I'm not, no, I don't like him, even though he saved my life and I would have otherwise died. No, this is even worse. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. You're alive. Chill the fuck out.
Right? It was like, show some gratitude. Right. Although, if we were in this situation, we'd probably feel the same.
Yeah, I know. It is funny.
Yeah.
But it is funny because now that you say that, it makes me reflect more on when they're further down in the levels and his air mark shows up on his body, and I don't know, I kind of forgot that the king was so out of it until that moment, but his sister was just like posturing for it even then.
Yes.
And it was obvious, but it didn't sink in because I wasn't really caring about their politics yet. I only cared about Misha.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what she was trying to do. Trying to throw these like she threw it in there. But like we didn't think about it as readers until it like became prominent later on down the line. And so I think that's a really cool way to do it. But yeah, so basically he says that he needs Misha, and they have this whole quest that they have to go on. Nyaxia has like given him these orders. Atroxus, who has given Misha these orders, and now they have to fulfill this quest. It was very, very cool.
You haven't read Dante's Inferno either, right?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either, but that's like a classic book, and supposedly the inspiration for this one, like the different levels of hell and stuff, I think are supposed to be kind of inspired by that. This book made me more interested in going back and reading that because I thought it was good. So I'm curious.
It. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I felt like the deeper they got within the levels, the cooler that it got. Like, one thing that Carissa Broadbent does is she has this amazing imagery that she portrays. And, like, it was hard for me to imagine, like, the levels until I actually saw the map. Because I had the art copy. And so I had no idea what the art looked like. I didn't know what the map looked like. And so I was having a really hard time in the beginning of the book. When I finally was able to see the physical map, I was finally able to visualize what was actually happening.
Like that they were laying on top of each other and they were going deeper and deeper. I totally agree, because the way that they kept talking about the doors through Morthrin, I was thinking like, I know this is so wrong, but you know, in Scooby-Doo, have you ever seen when they like pop in one door and they like pop out on the other side like this, right?
Yes.
I was like imagining that type of like door to nowhere type things. Like I just could not picture it as going, even though they were talking about stairs and stuff. But then they also kept like magically finding a like bedroom basically.
Right.
And so in my mind, these doors were not like all
doors.
going down. They were like doors off of random hallways and stuff. It was just like a building.
That's what I pictured too. Honestly, I was so confused. And then it was like built like a tree. It was very interesting. So basically the whole premise was like one of the gods was killed. Alaris was killed. And so they were going to resurrect him. And so Asar's duty was to resurrect him. And so they had to find all of his relics that were on these different planes through hell, basically. It wasn't through hell. But it was like...
Was it? Well, it was like the road to the underworld.
I love that. The road to the underworld.
Yeah.
And so you have all of these levels. And so the levels were... You had to go through body, breath, psyche, secrets, and soul. Those were the levels that you had to go through. And so you had this like tree-looking prison of Morthrin. And yeah... you had to get all these relics from all these different places, and then you could resurrect him, and they each had separate missions.
One, so it's interesting because, Alaris, the god that didn't quite die, but kind of died, right?
Yes.
To be able to make this road to the underworld,
Right.
Was Nyaxia's lover.
Yes.
But since Nyaxia was a lower god or like a newer god, and they didn't really respect her as much, then there had been that like conspiracy to kill her lover, sort of, right? And so she's the one who initially comes up with this mission for Asar, who is a vampire. So under her realm of responsibility, I guess, that she wants him to resurrect her lover. But then on the flip side, we have Misha, who kind of has this like competing mission of resurrect Alaris, but then immediately kill him.
Yes.
For Atraxas.
Like for good.
Yeah.
For good. Which was crazy. Crazy. Well, then we find out later on in the book, too, that Alaris was actually going to kill Nyaxia. Like, there was a whole plot behind that she didn't even know about. And so, therefore, Asar didn't know about. But, oh my gosh. Let's talk about the relationship between Misha and Atraxas.
So gross. Oh my
so
God.
It made me sick.
Made my skin crawl. It was so gross and grooming and just she was what, like 9 or 10 or
she
something
was 8.
Gross, like
8 when they first encountered.
Literal child.
Yes.
When she has to dedicate herself to Atraxas. And then for the rest of her life, like she like touches shoulders with a male friend at one point, and she's like, oh my God, he's gonna hate me, he's never gonna love me again.
Can you freaking imagine
so sad
being that young and thinking that like just bumping any body part with another person and thinking that you are like going to be disowned by your lover, the person who is supposed to protect you and give you grace and give you love? It made me so sick.
And it was such a gross relationship for her because she's like, oh my gosh, I finally am feeling love for the first time in my life, and I'm being taken care of, and my sister is being taken care of, and we have a family and a home, and I have enough to eat, and I'm not like on the streets and stuff. So for her, she's like, oh, this is supposed to be a really good thing.
Yeah.
I'm being told by everyone that this is such a good thing, but really she's just being groomed this whole time to tolerate this like level of abuse. And then even when she's like 16 and they, you know, have their official like wedding type ceremony.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, the wedding ceremony.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And she's like, oh, I guess it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. I'm like,
okay, but also like the fact that like she's giving up her virgin body, which is what Asar says later on in the book, and oh God, she's just giving up herself up to this person who has lots of other consorts. Like she's not the only one,
right? Like she is one of many to him, but he has to be her only.
Exactly, and the fact that he like gives her so much shame.
So much shame. He causes her to feel so much shame.
Yes.
And after she goes to, it's like she's already upset at Atraxis, right? And so that's why she even goes into this other area of the world where she ends up becoming a vampire. And the amount of extra
she was trying to do that for him. To show him that like everybody can be saved.
Right. Because he was kind of the one who put her on this mission.
Yes.
And so she's out there for him, becomes a vampire. Not in a way that she wants. It's a horrible
didn't mean
experience.
to. Yeah.
And then he's like burning her anytime that she's trying to, like, she's still trying to pray to him. She's still like treasuring him above all else. And instead he is just like treating her like absolute trash.
Garbage.
And so she feels like she can't explore this new side of herself because he'll hate it. And everything has to be about this horrible man.
Right.
God.
Okay. So what did you think about her using the magic and it literally burning her and scarring her?
That was so fucking sad. And especially, I think the saddest moment, like the moment that really made me teary when it came to her magic was, I think it was the first time when she's helping Asar close one of the doors that like the dead are trying to come through, and she's like really not wanting to use that side of her magic, like her shadow magic, because she's just, and you realize she's never really used that side of her magic,
right?
She's always using this kind that burns her, and she's just so happy she can access it that she's like, oh whatever, I'm just happy to feel the light.
I grabbed it from deep within me.
And then as soon as she uses the shadow magic, she's like, oh my God, it feels so natural, like it works so well. And her first thought is, he's going to be so mad because I liked it. I'm like,
and I love it because it was kind of in the background, but Asar goes, this is the way that it should feel. And that's not the last time he says that.
This is how love should feel. Should we talk about that?
Yes, please. Let's talk about Asar.
Let's talk about Asar. He's great.
I loved that he was a broody male. But he never stopped being that. It's not like he all of a sudden became sunshine. He was the black cat the entire book.
For sure. And I think there's so many books that try to be like, oh, morally gray. He was never morally gray either. He was just cranky.
He was black cat.
He was black cat. He was cranky the whole time.
Darker morally gray.
But he wasn't. That's the thing, is I don't think he was ever really, well, I guess they talk about his life above, and like some of the wars that he fought and stuff.
He was pretty dark.
But he was like, his actions were never gray. That's the thing, is I think that today so many people put the term morally gray on any character that's like brooding or misunderstood. But
he's misunderstood. Right. I like that.
But he doesn't ever have gray actions. Like he sees a hurting soul that hasn't made it through and he like tries to help them pass and stuff. Like,
can we talk about that? Okay, so Asar came from a really rough background, right? Yeah. And he's so misunderstood. Like
he's the bastard, right?
Yes, he's the bastard, and he's known as the Warden of the Wraiths. Which now we understand that is like a very positive thing that he is known as. But like everybody else sees that as him being just like this horrible person who does horrible things, right? But then we learn while they're going through these different levels that he's helping these souls
that are stuck pass on.
Yes.
Because they're getting stuck in those like 5 levels that Alaris created, and they're like not being able to make it all the way through to where they're supposed to go to find a peaceful afterlife.
Exactly.
And so he's like helping them along, like find peace. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think that brings us to Ophelia. So the first time that we meet Ophelia, which I think was on the first level, was that Body, maybe? Is that what the first one was?
Was it?
I don't remember, whatever. But
one of the earlier levels, for sure.
We meet her on one of the early levels. Who did you think she was to him when you first interact with her?
I thought she was a past lover.
Did you? So you called it from the beginning.
I did. See, that's crazy. I called it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't.
What did you think?
I just wasn't sure. I thought maybe that he was or she was somebody who he was like forced to kill through his like previous endeavors of doing things for the king. And so I thought maybe it was like just someone that he felt guilty about having murdered or something. But it wasn't until I think the second time that we see her, or it wasn't until you hear him holding her and being like, just give me a minute. Like, let me see what I could do. And so at that point, then I was like, oh, she must be a past lover. But before then, at first, when she's just like big, scary, like this is your fault, I was like, oh, it's like, I wonder if it's just someone that he feels guilty about having to do these actions on. But it's so much sadder when you realize what actually happened.
That was horrible. So on that note, what did you think about Eamon or however you say Misha's friend's name that she kept seeing? What did you think about him?
I could tell that was like, I think I didn't think that much about him by himself. It was more that it was clear that was a part of Misha's struggle to like come to terms with where she is now and how she got there. She's like, I didn't mean to do this. I didn't choose any of this. Like this was all, I don't want to say natural because that's not right, but you know what I mean? It was like, it just gonna happen. It was a part of her turning, right? And and so I could tell that it was like less about him and more about
Misha's
how
struggles.
she felt about that situation and that she was gonna take the pressure of that. I don't know. What did you think?
And her people pleasing.
I know. I think that's part of why I liked this book so much too, is because I also can be a people pleaser, and I feel like I related to her so much on the like wanting to be the version of yourself that you think everyone else wants to see the most. So I just like super felt for her and all of that during this book.
As a fellow people pleaser, I completely agree with you. And it's like you always want to like be liked and loved by everybody else, but like at what point do you sacrifice yourself for that to happen? Which like I think we're both kind of going through. So
I totally agree.
So kind of back on the note though, so that kind of leads us back to Ophelia. So as we go through those levels, she becomes a bigger image and a like bigger and bigger the farther we go down through the levels.
And like less, I wanted to say less human, but less vampire or whatever, right? Like she becomes less
more corporeal
herself.
Or less corporeal. She becomes more physical.
Does she become more physical? But she also becomes like crazier. That's what I mean. Like she becomes less of her original personality and like as she's like losing her sense of self as she's coming down through the levels, and so she just all she's holding on to is this anger about the situation of how she got there, and but she's like losing the reason why.
She basically is just like she only has that last thought of when she was dying. And so I feel like the way that they kind of talk about the wraiths too, like as you go down through the levels, you become more lost and all you remember is those last moments. And so you become like you want more from life. Like you remember dying, you remember those last moments, and so you're trying more hard to like get like latch onto that life. And so
which is why they're also drawn to Asar and Misha as they're going through the levels, because they're reeking of life.
Oh my gosh, I know this book was not about trials.
No, but it kind of was. Like as they go through each of the 5 different areas of the underworld, I guess, the layers to the underworld. It did feel like trials to me in a way, but not in that they were like competing against others. It's more just they were literally having to like get past these different, I don't know, pieces.
Like you had to like get past it to get the relic, and there was always a struggle. There was always something that you had to get past. And I felt like that was so fun and done in such a different way.
I totally agree.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
It's so crazy because for the most part, I think I've seen decent reviews of this book, but I have seen like a good amount of reviews that didn't enjoy the levels. And I think that they thought that was like, not enough was happening in that. But it's so funny because I knew that you would love this book, because it really was all about Misha's internal journey about getting over no longer being the chosen one, and who is she if she's not that? And who does she want to be? So But it's funny because normally I don't care that much about stories like that, but I felt so much for her in this that all through of those, I was like so invested.
Well, I feel like you were so connected with Mish as a character that I feel like that really set the tone. Yeah. Because we really liked Mish from the first duology.
Yeah.
And so coming into this, being able to learn more about her, being able to learn about her journey, I felt like that pulled both of us into the story.
For sure. Also, Luce.
Oh,
everybody
loves a dog.
Everybody loves a dog sidekick.
Oh my God.
And it immediately made me like Asar more.
Honestly, same.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that brings us back to, so he brought Luce back from the dead.
He tried.
He tried so hard, but he's still this ghost dog. But even he was like, who's your best friend? Luce. And like no hesitation, no questions asked. Side note, I loved that part where she was like, well, who's your best friend? Luce. What's your favorite color? I don't know.
The 20 questions.
Yeah, I loved it so much.
Yeah.
But then, so I guess that brings us to like how Ophelia was brought back.
Yeah.
So Ophelia was the person, quote unquote person, who was like haunting Asar during this entire thing because he had brought her back from the dead. And there was a point in the story that there was one quote where
so backtracking slightly.
Yes.
So she was his lover.
Yes.
And like they were in love, right?
Yes.
And because his family was mad about him being a bastard and not really wanting happiness for him, they arranged for her to be murdered.
Yes.
And so she's murdered, calling out for him, is really upset. And he, since he has this necromancy ability, he tries to bring her back, thinking that he's doing it the right way, thinking that he's doing the right thing.
Yes.
But he's only partially successful. So she gets stuck in this in-between of life and death, which is why she's now in this like wraith state of just like can't move on and can't pass, but also isn't alive and doesn't know what to do. And it is kind of his fault that he's there and he feels awful because all he was trying to do was be together with her again, but all he did was bring her more pain.
Yes, exactly. And it was so sad because like this brings upon this whole journey for Asar on like this grief and this guilt and everything. And on, I think it was 222. He knew what had happened. He knew that Ophelia was punishment for rising too fast. A beautiful life with so much potential destroyed for nothing but his brother's petty jealousy, his need for dominance, his desire to destroy something that just because he could not have it. Dread rose in my chest, choking me, drowning me. I crawled toward Asar, reaching for him. His pain etched in my heart. I wanted to soothe the wound before it festered and became something so much worse. That killed me because she is finally realizing, Misha is finally realizing why Asar is so closed off, why he's in so much pain, and she just wants to nurture him. She just wants to help him and care for him, and he is so closed off that he can't even do it.
He doesn't want anyone else to have to carry the burden that he is.
Exactly.
But it's also the moment that you realize why he's so invested in Morthrin.
Yeah.
I think that's the moment that it really sinks in of why he, even though it's sort of what he's supposed to do, it's also why he clearly cares so much more about doing a good job, is because he's realized the impact that has on all these spirits that haven't found closure. And that he's the one who can help, but he doesn't want anyone else to have to feel that pain. He's like, this is my burden to bear.
And I feel like with him doing that with Ophelia, it just gives him that much more of a purpose for that job to do it. Which is so sad.
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was really, when you really understand the full extent of it, it was so freaking sad.
It was so, for both of them.
Sad. I know, for both of them.
They had very, very different backgrounds. But they both felt so much shame and guilt and just like they weren't good enough. That was so sad to me. And to watch. Okay, I think that's why this book was so hard to get into, though, is because it was so sad for so long.
It was really sad. I think that's why I say that middle, like when you hit about the 50% mark, it's just, it's been so depressing at that point. And there's been nothing happy has happened yet. And we haven't gotten any of Misha and Asar being together yet. And so like the only thing that's really happened is, thank God that at that point we had finally lost the guard and the other lady.
Oh my God, yeah, Elias and then Chandra, who were like, okay, yes, they were side characters, but like they kind of meant nothing,
right? But like in the beginning, you kind of think that they're going to mean something because they're like part of the team,
exactly,
going into the underworld, and then
it was like, what was your purpose?
I guess
you didn't give us any information on the back characters. Like we didn't need anything.
But so it was just funny, because I think that that's why at that point I'm like, okay, something's got. I needed a little bit from the romance by then.
Yes.
For to be in it, and it took just like a tiny bit too long.
I totally agree with that.
But
so do we want to start when they get to Esme's place? Was that in Psyche?
So sweet. I think it was. I love the piano playing, and they're all dancing.
With the shadow hand?
Always love shadow hand. Did that remind you of Dorian?
So we get a shadow daddy? You're saying we have a shadow daddy? Are you?
Another shadow daddy? I love it.
We're going to have another one to add to the list. So here we go.
I know. No, I just loved that it was just like a happy, carefree moment. Even if it wasn't, like, especially the beginning of it wasn't necessarily romantic or supposed to be romantic. It was just him sharing in his love of music with the both of them and just like trying to have a like happy, peaceful moment.
I absolutely loved that. And I loved that they were finally able to like have a second where they can just relax and have fun. Like it has been a very intense journey. The part. So they're like, go shower. And she's like, okay, yes. And then oh my God, it was like a silk nightgown was laid out on the bed. And then she comes downstairs. And he, like, takes a while to get up. And he, like, shuffles the newspapers that are on his lap. And he's like, And he finally goes upstairs to shower. And Esme goes, in the name of the mother, girl, he could not stand up after he saw you in that nightgown. Friends, she says. I thought the same thing.
Just, like, kept pressing. She's like, sure, friends.
Are you sure?
Just friends. That's how it goes, man.
Oh, my God. That was so funny. And just picturing like he saw her in this nightgown and he was like, oh God, I've got a heart on, I cannot get up, oh my God.
Well, and that's after her feeling like a little bit self-conscious of everyone being able to see the burns that Atraxas has like put on her body as a result of her trying to use the magic, and that he's like, I see past that, I just see you.
Oh my God, when he starts kissing the burns up her arm.
Oh, it was so touching.
I think that turned something inside of me when he goes, love is not supposed to feel like that. And she goes, well, how should it feel? It should feel like this. And he starts kissing her. And he's like, it should be sweet. It should be loving. But he doesn't say that. He just shows her.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he's like very respectful until she gives him the okay to show her, because for so much of the book, she's like, Atraxas is gonna be so mad.
Yeah.
I can't go down there. Like, I am so thirsty, but I can't drink any blood. Like, I can't do any of these things.
It'll be seen as a sexual act. Like, right. Yeah.
And oh my God, when they finally have that scene, she's like, okay, just 5 drinks. Only 5 drinks. That's it. We can't do any more than 5 drinks.
Oh my God. I was like toes curled reading that scene.
That was really good.
Oh my God. One thing about Shelby, a vampire scene where they're drinking each other's blood. And we know in these series, the effect that has on the person who is giving the blood, it gives you like this ecstasy.
Right.
It reminds me of like doing a drug.
Of like what that's supposed to feel like, of just like the ecstasy in the moment.
Yes.
And also for some reason in this particular scene, even though it probably is more similar to the cave scene from the first 2 books, but it also reminded me of a specific scene in the Crave series. If you remember what I'm like, it reminded me of that too. It's like any of those vampire scenes where they're like eating and it's just like, oh this is the best moment that has ever existed. You are my sustenance.
Yes, literally. Yeah. Oh my God, I love it so much. I loved it.
It was so hot.
It was so hot.
Yeah.
So hot. And the fact that in the beginning he didn't even like try to do anything himself. He put her hand on herself. Yes. And he said, you do it.
He's like, I watch.
You show me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just here. You do your thing, man. I'm just here.
I loved that.
Show me what you like.
Show me what you like. It kind of reminded me of another series where I'm like reading right now, and he was like, show me what it is that you like, and I will do that for you.
Oh my God, yes. Good stuff.
Daddy Nyctos. So we have a Daddy Asar, we have Daddy Nyctos.
Lots of daddies out there.
Lots of daddies out there.
You gotta learn about Daddy Kingfisher from Quicksilver.
I've heard Daddy Kingfisher is really good.
Girl. Girl. You gotta get there.
I have to get there. I know.
You gotta get there. I'm telling you. You're gonna love it.
I love it. But yeah, oh my God, that freaking scene. That had me like
so hot.
It's so hot.
And just like the like not wanting to let go was just I loved that too.
So like side note, do you follow Carissa Broadbent on Instagram?
I think so, yeah.
Have you seen the not safe for work version of that scene?
Oh, I didn't see the not safe for work, but I have seen that she's posted a lot of fan art, and it's been so hot.
So hot.
Wait, so backtracking, do we know what the things, spiderwebby, magic-y things on his face are yet? I don't remember. We learned in this book, didn't we? What that came from?
What?
His like scarred, like his eye and the shit that's all over his body that's like spiderwebbed around his body, that like scar. I know we learned what that was about, but I don't remember.
I don't remember it either, unfortunately. I know, like, I'm pretty sure we learned. I don't know if it
wasn't important.
I guess.
Okay.
But I think we learned like how he not lost his eye, because he didn't lose his eye. He still has an eye. It's
different,
clouded and white, and doesn't have pupils or anything. But I don't remember how it is that he lost that.
Spicy art. I found it.
There it is. Yep.
Oh my God.
With him making her touch herself, I was I know, blushing, literally blushing. I know. So go find the not safe for work art on Carissa Broadbent.
The like picture on her main page just says spicy art depicting scene from chapter 32.
You guys.
Whoa.
Oh my God. It was so hot. It was so freaking hot.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
Whew. So yeah.
Well, okay. Are we ready to talk about the ending?
Girl. Yes. All right, so we've gone all these levels, right? And we get to the level of soul, which is the last level that they have to get to. It's the last
we finally
relic.
make it. It's the last thing. They're setting up the whole necromancy thing with candles and whatever. I don't know.
It looks like ceremony. A vigil. Like a vigil or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we set up this vigil for the last relic that they have to get. And Misha realizes, hey, somebody talked about 5 relics. Why do we only have 4? Yeah. Or it was 1 number off.
Yep.
And she was like, what the heck? And he goes, don't worry about it. We got it. The soul, like, the gate is the last one. Yeah. And he sets himself up as the last relic.
Because he is a descendant of Alaris.
Yes.
Or that's what our assumption is supposed to be.
Right. And so, oh my God, at the very end, when she's looking and she's like, okay, yes, I can perform this ritual. I'm like now in tune with my more necromancy side.
And then he's like, peace out. Do it by yourself. I'm dead. Like, what?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? Oh my God. So then we have all these gods that are like, this can't happen. Misha's dead.
Right. Well, so as Misha is dying, her like last bit is basically instead of pulling out Alaris, she like pulls back out Asar, but Asar kind of has the god powers of Alaris.
Yeah, so he's like doesn't stay dead.
Right.
Yeah.
But then she dies.
But then she's
and
now.
Who does she fucking see?
Fucking Vincent.
Dude,
what the fuck?
I got so pumped when I read that about where the direction of the story could go from there, because we know so much about Vincent through Araya's eyes from the first 2 books, and that was the first and only moment of like all of the book that felt like it was tying together with the first series.
I know.
And it made me so fucking curious about how Vincent's role is going to play into the next book. I'm so excited.
I'm also so excited to see where that comes in, because I'm like, okay, so now we've completed these levels of the underworld. Like, is this next book going to be in the underworld?
Well, it makes me wonder if it's going to be like
Okay, without giving spoilers to another series.
Right.
Do you think it's gonna be like where one character is in the underworld and the other one is in the living? And
I really hope that it doesn't last like that for long. There's a little bit of the, distance makes the heart grow fonder, but I feel like they were just starting to have that moment. So if they're separated for for a lot of the book, it's just going to be irritating. I kind of wonder if she's going to lose a little bit of her sense of self and being down there. And I wonder how different Asar's position is now going to be with the rest of the gods, right? And how that's going to feed into it.
I tell you, I'm gonna be so mad.
I'm ready to see.
There was a book we read that I really fucking hated that in.
Yeah.
So,
but the scene that I'm hoping for the most in book 4 is to see Asar just absolutely beat the living crap out of Atraxas. Now that they're both gods, now that they're both gods, because that he's pissed about the grooming that she went through and the shame that she felt, and so I want him to teach that other god a lesson.
Can we talk about the scene? And I think it was in Psyche or maybe it was in Secrets where she shows up there's the mirrors. Or maybe it wasn't Psyche. No, I lied. It was right after they finally,
Yes.
did the deed.
Well, they
didn't even do the deed. They shared blood in a very intimate way.
Yes.
And then she has the dream. And Atraxas comes to her, and he was like, "I'm sorry. What the fuck did you think you just did?"
Yeah, that's so sad.
We got both of the
two dogs,
2 doggies. They want nothing to do with us otherwise. When Atraxas comes to her in the dream, and he's like, "I'm sorry. Excuse me. What did you think that just was? Like, you really think you can do that with somebody else?" And she was like, I didn't even know you still cared. Like, it's so hard to pull up that power. It's so hard to feel connected to you. Like, I'm so sorry. I'll do everything that I can. Right. Like, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Are you kidding me?
I know.
That pissed me off.
I know, because he ignores her until he wants something from her.
Exactly.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'll give you a little bit of this power back. You can reach it again, but it's going to burn the crap out of you every time. And you have to do this for me."
Literally. And then you find out that, during that time, they wake up and things are awkward, and she goes, "Oh, Nyaxia probably came to him in his dream too."
And we haven't really figured out. We haven't. I also think we're gonna get at least a little bit from his viewpoint in the second book.
I hope so.
And I hope that we know what Nyaxia told him in the dream, because I do think that there was another dream going on at the same time. I think so too, because he started acting weird too, and so I'm curious to see what it was that she said to him.
Honestly, same. And I hope we find that out. I love that in the prologue, the last chapter, that we get so I'm just giggling at the dogs.
I can't.
I love that in the last chapter, we get from his perspective on what's happening and how he's with the gods. He's like, "I'm going to do everything in my power to get her out of it. Like, she's going to come back. I just know it." I'm like, wow, that ending of the book. That's why I say, how the book ends is how I rate the book.
For sure.
And that was totally a freaking good one.
And I thought the same thing happened with The Serpent and the Wings at Night too. I loved how the first book of the duology finished with the betrayal of Rain killing Araya's father, killing Vincent. Which again is why I'm so excited to see where this goes with Vincent now being a part of it. And I want to know has Vincent been able to see all of what Araya has been doing? What level of knowledge is there now? Is Misha gonna come back to life, and is she gonna bring back knowledge she's learned from Vincent?
I know. Or what is she gonna learn in the underworld? I feel like the way that this ended makes me just so excited for the next one.
Yeah.
I loved the first 2 books. I loved this book. So we said we gave it a 4.5 rather than a 5. What was it about that middle that made it drop less for you?
To be honest, it was just, I think it was on me as a reader that I was just too impatient. I think, like we were saying, there was so much sad, depressing, and I needed if there had even been one slightly fleeting moment of she had fallen and he was needing to carry her out, and there was a moment or something like that. If if there was any bit of like release of the tension more towards the middle, I think that tension was just there for like a little bit too long for me.
Okay, I can totally see that.
What about you? Was that kind of what you were feeling? Was it something different?
Kind of. For me, it was the fact of like, so you go through these levels and then you're in Morthrin, climbing these stairs, keeping the wraiths like away from the gate, and it would say like weeks go by or a month has gone by or 2 months later. So much time had gone by, but we're not hearing that much of what's happening.
It was like seeing gap in time, gap in time. Yeah. It did make it harder to follow how much time was passing.
Right. And so for me, that was like a little confusing. And then when we have the scene where you find out the king is dead and then the air mark shows up on Asar, and it was like, okay, but how long have they been down there? Like, it didn't make sense to me. There wasn't like a specific timeline, which like happens in books, but for me that kind of took me out of the story a little bit.
As you say that, I don't even think at the beginning of any of the chapters, like I think it just was chapter titles, and some books will be like
3 months later.
3 months later, 1 month later, whatever. They'll like show some passing of time even in the chapter header. Right. And I do think that helps me a little bit, but you're right. I don't think I appropriately felt the passing of time in this book either.
Yeah.
Which made it harder than, they obviously developed such a deep bond, but it didn't feel like that long to us as a reader necessarily.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so I felt like in the beginning, it was really hard for me to imagine everything that was described until I saw the map. So if you have the map, please use it because it was very helpful. So it was the imagery in the very beginning and then the time gaps, and it just, that's pretty much for me.
Yeah. But I think that is, besides the Stormlight Archive, my favorite character journey that I've had so far in any book. I
love that. Misha's or Asar's?
Misha's. Well, I mean both, but like especially Misha's, of just like the pain of wanting to please and really having no option there and figuring out what do you do now.
Right.
That was, I think, just so heartbreaking for me.
I totally agree with you. And I feel like both of us have like that people pleasing.
Nurturers.
Nurturers. We are 100% nurturers. And like watching her go through that same journey was just like, oh my gosh, it really got to my heartstrings. Awesome. Well, do you have anything else for this book?
No, just excited for book 4.
Honestly,
that's really all I gotta say.
And literally love Carissa Broadbent and her writing so much. Like, so captivating. I'm so excited to read the rest of the series.
Yeah. So thanks again to Tor for sending us copies.
Yes, thank you so much, Tor. Cannot wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week on Miss Will's Book Club.
Bye.